Serving their community is who they are because they love where they live. REMAX 3D Real Estate is proud to bring you Heart of Greenville, a video series dedicated to celebrating all the wonderfully great things about Greenville, Texas. On every episode, Dennisha Denny will share Greenville's story through the stories of people who call Greenville home. This is Heart of Greenville.
Thank you so much for watching Heart of Greenville. Our show would not be possible without our sponsors. So I want to give a quick shout out to REMAX 3D Real Estate, who serves all of our community for all of your real estate needs. Whether you're buying or selling, we are here for you. And to Triton Networks. Triton Networks is here to serve our business community for all of your communication and networking needs. On our show today, we had Debbie Sickels. She has so many fun stories to share, but also so much wisdom. I really enjoyed getting to hear some of the stories behind the scenes with her. I've known Debbie for years and loved serving in Rotary with her, but I got to see and hear more stories than I knew before. Here's my conversation with Debbie. Hey y'all, I'm Dennisha Denny, your host of Heart of Greenville, and today we're sitting down on the third floor of the landmark on Lee Street at The Landing. And my guest today is my dear friend, Miss Debbie Sickels. How are you today, Debbie?
Hi, I'm great. Thanks for having me.
You're so welcome. Thanks for agreeing to sit down with me. I actually loved our pre-conversation that we had, so now we get to back up and people get to hear these stories about you. And I was trying to think how long I've known you. I've known you, I think, at least all of my real estate career. So for over 23 years, I've known you. And I've known you for your insurance business. That's really how I've gotten to know you, which you've opened your new company now, so the Insurance Group of North Texas, right?
Yes.
I want to start with, how did you get into that business?
Well, I have some of the longest stories, and I know you don't have time for all of them, but to make it as short as I can, I actually was, I had gotten an offer basically to go to work, and I was in the finance business, and I was supervising and managing in finance business, and I literally left there for a temporary. I was in Fort Smith, Arkansas, and I left there temporarily, and I called back, and yes, they hired me right back. And he said, but I'm going to have to travel. And I said, well, I know what that means. And basically traveling, you just troubleshoot. And he sent me to Sulphur Springs, Texas. Well, I'll say something about Sulphur Springs. Not every young girl at 19 years old drives into that town with a Jeep and pulling a boat, and people are still friendly and wave at you. Friendliest town. I said, I love Texas. So it was really my first happiness of walking into Texas and going, I love Texas. I'm from Muskogee, Oklahoma, USA. And so basically I went and worked at Sulphur Springs, and one wonderful night, some of us wanted to go out to the Country Gold, and I went out there, and we got there way too early. Didn't realize nothing started till dark. This little old podunk girl here in Greenville. And so we went to the Country Gold, and me and a friend were back there shooting a game of pool, and I turned around and I saw this blonde-haired, blue-eyed cowboy, white shirt, stark jeans, and my heart just pity-pattered. And his name is Wayno, and the rest is history. So,
I love it. So definitely love at first sight.
Yes, definitely love at first sight. Probably more on my part than it may have been on his, but you'll have to get his story.
I do. I need to hear Wayne's story. I know. I love to sit down and talk to him when we've gone on some of our trips together with the Rotary Club and things, you know. It's always fun to hear Wayne's perspective. He's going to tell you like it is and how he thinks about it.
Yep, he's my rock and he's my country boy. I'll call him my cowboy. He'll tell me he's not a cowboy, he's a country boy.
He's a country boy. Well, what's the difference? Does he get into the difference of why?
Yeah, I think because he didn't ride broncs or bulls, maybe.
Now, when he came along, you instantly became a mom and to two boys. And so,
two wonderful stepchildren, Mike and Gary.
Yes, which so many people know here in town.
Yes.
And then you had your own.
Yes, and then me and Wayne have Shane together, and our kids are 10 and 15 years apart.
Wow.
So, yeah, we were spread out, raised those three boys.
What was it like to instantly become a mom? I mean, you were young, and so you hadn't had your own children yet. And
right.
So then now you have a husband, and you have two boys.
I think luckily that I was still so young. I mean, when we met, I guess I was 22, and 23 probably. We got married when I was 26, so yeah, it's probably 23 or 4. So I was still young, and of course I had my boat, and we taught him how to fish and swim and hunt and ski. And so I could tell you a bowling story. I thought we're going to take the kids bowling, and I'm like, I learned this in college. You had to take a PE class in college, right? I said, I learned this, so I do the 1, 2, 3, 4. Stuck right on that floor and fell and busted my butt. And the kids said, "Oh, is that the way it's really done?" And so they laughed at me all the time. And in Monopoly, the boys always gained up on the girls. That's okay, though. So they had to fight, though, to win. I think you know I love to win.
Yes.
And you have to fight. If you're going to beat me, you got to do it on your own.
That's right.
So my kids learned that from a young age also.
I think that's good, though. I think it's good to teach them what it feels like to lose.
Yes, exactly.
I'm the same way. I won't let my kids win. If they win, it's because they earned it and they won.
Exactly.
So
I agree with you.
I think that's great that you did that. Well, it worked out for you and for them. They grew up to be great, entrepreneurs and business people. So it worked out.
Yeah, almost every one of us are self-employed, I guess.
That's a good thing, though. It just kind of gets into your blood. Kind of like me. That's how my family was, too. My parents were entrepreneurs, and my brother and I are, too. And I think it just becomes that's your lifestyle, and that's what you know. And
well, I think there's one thing that I've always had as a motto, and I probably didn't talk to you a bit about this, but I will assure you of one thing. You have a choice in life. Mm-hmm. And only you can make that choice. Yes. And only you have to live with that choice. Mm-hmm. And so I tell a lot of people that. They're like, how'd you do this or how'd you do that? I said, we have choices in life.
Right. That's exactly right. I've always said, once you turn 18 and you don't have to be in your parents' home, everything else is on you.
Right.
What you decide to do, you don't have to keep repeating those same mistakes.
And think for yourself.
You get to think for yourself, and you can change the course of your life because of that.
Yes.
So speaking of that, let's talk about your childhood. You grew up in Oklahoma. What was that like in your family? What was your family dynamic like?
Well, my dad was actually a heavy equipment operator, so he could operate any kind of machinery. And he worked in the oil field. So I was actually born in a little bitty town called Nowata, which is actually Cherokee Reservation area land. It's in northern Oklahoma. Both my mom and daddy were from Nowata in Delaware, which Delaware was just really a nothing little town. And so we moved, I think it was to Missouri and somewhere Illinois, when I was 1. But then we moved to Muskogee when I was 1.5. So I do consider Muskogee, Oklahoma, my home. And then Dad, oil well or pipe or something blew up, and it blew on his face. So he got out of that field and just became a heavy equipment operator for Oklahoma Natural Gas. He worked there the rest of his life until he retired. So I'm the baby of 4 children, myself, a sister, and 2 brothers. And we are, believe it or not, 1 year apart, every one of us. My mother was barefoot pregnant for 5 straight years.
Bless her
Yes,
heart.
we are August, 2 in September, and I was in November.
Wow.
And I was the baby of the bunch.
Oh,
and then, of course, as life happens, my parents got a divorce, separated and divorced when I was probably, about 9 or 10. And those were some rough years. So, you never really know you're poor until you meet people that are rich. We were humbled when we were young. We didn't do without. I mean, we had food, and we even deserved the commodity cheese and the peanut butter and the things they gave back out in those days. And then after my parents divorced, that was pretty rough and rocky, but because there's a lot of animosity and fighting, and a divorce is never good. And when you have these 4 children, well, I was probably, of course, the baby, so we were probably 10, 11, 12, or 13. So the boys, it's kind of the long-haired. It was, flower power days and Vietnam War. And so my brothers were a little bit harder to control. And so Mom let them stay with Dad for a while, hoping my dad would kind of take control of them. Well, I ended up being the only one that, when my mom remarried, I stayed with my mom and my stepdad, so I was really the only one that stayed with them. And out of no other reason except that I just had more stability there. My dad was still single, and he was still running around, and as everybody, he was angry, so he drank. And so I literally I stayed with Mom, had a wonderful stepdad who taught me to think for myself and to make proper choices. And those things stick with you all your life. And so I literally, I loved fun. I loved life, and I loved having a lot of fun. And so I literally, in, 9th grade, I don't know, I think I was 15, I went to work at Sambo's. It was a brand new Sambo's, waiting tables. Oh, I got to share this with you. Because everybody said, you had bad things happen as a waitress sometimes, but I had so many good things. And I'll never leave. 50 cents was a good tip. $1 was a great tip back then. You guys, we're talking 1974, and I'm telling my age. But I went out. I'd gotten a big tip on the table, and then I went out to my car, and there was a little poem on it, and the poem said, you can't forget it because it was handwritten, said, there is no greater beauty, no matter where one goes, than the lovely little Debbie serving eggs at Sambo's.
Oh!
How do you remember that?
Sweet,
and
that's so sweet.
And there was a $5 bill on it.
Oh my
and
goodness.
So,
on your card? The note and the card. Did you know who left it?
No, absolutely never found out. It had a little bitty, like a little bitty pink flower or something was even put on it, and I have no idea. And then, like I said, other kind of weird things happen. You don't want to talk about those. But anyway, so I literally love that job, and I love servicing people, and Sambo's motto was kiss them in and kiss them out, and I think that's told my tale for the rest of my life. So I went to school at Northeastern at Tahlequah.
Kiss them out meant what? What was the motto of that? What did that mean?
The customer's always right, and you smile. You just keep on smiling. No matter what happens, you keep on smiling. And if it gets so bad you can't smile, you just go find the manager.
It's not a bad motto, though. You know, customer service is so important.
It is very important.
And it's still so important.
Yes, it is.
I love that. Okay, keep going. Sorry, I didn't mean
Well,
to stop
so
that.
anyway, then I worked there for a couple of years while I was in high school and graduated, and then I went to Northeastern, which is at Tahlequah, Oklahoma. And if you've never been there, it sits right on the Illinois River, and it's a beautiful river to raft and have fun. And then on the other end of it is Lake Tenkiller, which is my stomping party lake grounds. Not that Fort Gibson Lake in Oklahoma was good too, right by Muskogee, but I love Tenkiller because it's a cold lake, it's a deep lake, it's a real cool lake, kind of like Beaver's Bend.
Yes, I
right?
love that one.
And so anyway, after I went to college a few years, I came back and Sambo's hired me for the summer. I was just going to make some extra money, and then lo and behold, that I was there 3 or 4 days, and a man and wife and their children walked in and said, I waited on them, and they were there hours, and they wanted everything. And I just kept smiling. And basically, I handed them their ticket, and they called me back over, and I thought, oh, no, what have I done wrong? I didn't. He said, you're the first one that has ever added my ticket up right. Would I like a job?
Oh, my
I said, no, I'm
goodness.
going to go back to school. And he said, well, we'll make it worth your while. I said, well, I'll listen. So we had about a 4-hour interview, and then they wanted another interview. And then I was to the point of stop talking to me, talk to me about the job. And it was in the finance business, and he was the supervisor. And I said, well, if you'll make me a manager, I'll work for you if you make me a manager, because I couldn't even picture having weekends off. I was like, I've never had weekends off. I'd always worked and waitressed and stuff. And so I said, I will, but you'll have to make me a manager or I'm going back to school when they enroll in the fall. He's like, okay. Well, I went, I learned the business, I was great, and then here it came to enroll in school. I said, well, am I going to become a manager? He's afraid I wasn't ready. Well, he sent me to the worst office. It's in Arcoma, Oklahoma on the Fort Smith, Arkansas line, and I loved it. I was great at it. I cleaned that office up. I became the highest profit maker, the largest office, the lowest slow file, lowest bad debt, and I really loved what I did. Wow. And then things happen in your life, and you kind of think you need to get away. So I actually did sell dictaphone and Pitney Bowes machines for a while. Got to travel the beautiful hills of Arkansas.
Okay, I know what a Pitney Bowes machine is. What's the other
A
machine?
dictaphone, a transcriber, where
transcriber.
you talk into it, and as a lawyer might talk into
Okay.
it, and then the transcriber, your secretary would transcribe it. Instead of
cool.
shorthand.
Right, okay.
Yeah. Okay. And
Sorry,
so,
I just need a quick education.
That's all right. So anyway, that kind of just didn't work out because I was going through some things personally too in my life. And so I just called back at the finance business and I asked them if they wanted to hire me back. If not, I'd just go apply at their competitor. And he's like, well, let me check your record. And and he hired me back. And that's when I came. My first office was, he said, you'd leave Oklahoma because I used to would never leave.
Oh, yeah.
No, I'm staying right here. My mom is only an hour away, and I love it. And I said, no, I will. And he goes, you'll leave even Texas? I said, yes. And so, again, the first place I went to and drove into was Sulphur Springs.
Sulphur Springs. I still love that you said you pulled in your Jeep and your boat.
Yep.
Okay, you love the lake.
I love the lake.
Tell me, where did that come from? I mean, I know you had them around you, but you have such a genuine love for the lake.
Well, Do y'all believe in horoscope signs?
Like the zodiac signs?
Yes. Well, I'm a Scorpio, and that means we love water. We're a water sign.
Okay.
And my baby's a Pisces, Shane, and my husband's
you're
a Cancer.
When's your birthday?
November 1st.
Oh,
I just
okay.
had it.
You just had Well, happy belated birthday.
Thank you.
It's still your birthday month, so we can still celebrate.
Yeah, I think this is one of the first times because it's like, okay, you might party on Halloween and then the first your birthday and it's over. And I'm like, no, people's taking me to lunch.
Yes.
I did like 7 out of the first 9 days. I was still having a birthday party. I'm like, oh, this isn't so bad when you get over 60. People remember and want to party a little bit more.
Yes, exactly.
So where was I?
We were talking about the lake life.
Oh,
And
yeah.
your sign,
Well,
it's water. And so
I think what happened, honestly, is I was the baby of the bunch. And so you first learn to mud crawl in a lake. That's the way most of us learned back then, like I said. So we would go to the lake while the other kids were out there having fun, and I'm just sitting there playing in the muds and the rocks. And I said, I'm going swimming. And I just got up and I walked out there and I just sunk to the bottom. My dad just had to come pick me up. Excuse me, as I coughed, coming out of the water. And he picked me up, and I was like, I got to learn how to swim so I could play with them. Well, Muskogee actually had a huge pool. So our parents let us go, and we took lessons, but they also had diving boards, a low dive and high dive. Oh. And so after I took lessons and learned how to swim, I learned every stroke there was. I could float. I could go to the bottom. And I learned how to dive. And actually, diving was really one of the things I probably loved to do as much as anything because I couldn't jump. Jumping hurts the bottom of your feet, might hurt your bottom. It hurts. Well, diving doesn't hurt as bad if you know how to hold your hands properly on your head.
Okay.
Or bend them or whatever, or cup them. So I would high dive. And so that was just the one thing that I really enjoyed as far as the water. Well, and then my mom met my stepdad, and they ended up getting a boat. And I was learning how to ski on 2 of the just cheap skis, and one of my skis fell off. I was kind of walking because he's like, try to ski on one. I was lifting them up and putting them down, and my ski fell off. And he's like, stay up. Well, it wasn't the one that had the boot in the back. It was just the other one. So I'm just like, I know what to do, And so he's like, stay out. I don't know how I skied for a while, and then finally they came back around, and he made me drop, and he got the second ski, and he put the other one, and he said, now go. I said, well, I'm wore out. And anyway, so I learned how to slalom ski, and that actually really became my passion.
Really?
And people, it's really kind of hard to believe, but I could cut some roosters on a slalom ski. And anyway, so I told my friend we would go to Tenkiller, and it has beautiful state parks and cliffs and things like that. And we would be sitting there hoping someone might come up we know and take us for a boat ride or whatever. I told her, I said, we're going to be the ones in that boat next summer. And those other people's going to be up here on the cliffs wanting to go for a ride with us. So anyway, I got that job in the finance business, and that was the first thing I went and bought as soon as 6 months. Fort Smith was a usury law. He wouldn't even loan me the money, which meant interest rates were low, but you had to be 21. And he wasn't going to loan it to me. He said, well, I'll tell you what, you come up with a down payment and I'll loan you this money. Because I said, I'll pay that money back. I could wait tables to pay back. It was only like $129 a month. This was back when things were cheap.
Yes.
You didn't make as much money, but still things were more affordable. And so anyway, I saved up that down payment, and then I bought that boat, and the rest was history. As soon as I bought the boat, my little car wouldn't pull it. I had to go buy me a Jeep, and the rest was history. Every summer, that's what I love to do.
I was going to say, so from that point on, then everybody else was standing on the cliff wanting to ride with you guys.
Yeah, I did more skiing and playing back then, but now as you get older, I've become quite the fisher person.
So you transitioned that.
Yes.
So now.
Yeah. Well, I hurt my back, and so whenever that kind of happens, it kind of takes away your slalom and getting hurt on ski.
Right.
So
now you guys live out at the Oasis now, right?
We have a weekend place there.
Weekend place.
Maybe one day we'll get to build there.
Well, and you've had that place for a long time, haven't you?
Yes, was a matter of fact, when my baby was born, which was spring break, March 17th, it was spring break, and literally I had a custom van. And of course, if y'all know what spring break is, it's crappie season. So we were down in the cove, and I was breastfeeding and taking care of my baby, and he was sleeping in the van because all they do is eat and sleep, right?
That's right. That's true.
And I was crappie fishing. So Shane's been pretty much raised on that lake also, right there at the Oasis. Yes.
That's so cool. I'm so glad you shared that story.
It might embarrass
He's
Shane.
going to embarrass him like crazy, but
He got a plug.
it's a great story. But how cool is that? I mean, you didn't let that slow you down. You kept doing you and getting, you earned that.
Well, he did too, because he loves the lake also, and
Does
he
he?
loves to fish. Yes.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's really cool. I know over the years I've heard you talk about your lake house, and just you light up when you talk about the lake. So is that your place to go to reset?
It is, but it's also it can be a busy place because, we host fish fries, and we have lots of friends and family type that live there. We've been there so long, and we have what we call the beach across the street, and everybody wants to know why it's called the Oasis. Well, we didn't know either, because these were all just little bitty lots. The actual owner expected them to be or basically sold as just tent camper type lots, and so he as people bought more, they would build down there. But anyway, when he had the beach across the way right from our house, and we ended up getting it, and it went dry one day, or one year. It was 1995, I believe, and it went dry. And by the meaning dry, we had to walk 100 or better yards across what? Sandy Beach, because it sits right there on like the branches of the Sabine River and the cheap creeks and channels that run through there. So we'd walk probably in a couple of inches of water for 100 yards, and you'd fall off in that creek. And then by the end of the summer, literally, we could step and we were right in that creek. Absolutely one of our funnest summers, but that's why we said now we know why it was called the Oasis Edition. You could build sand castles as big as a body.
Wow,
Yeah.
that's cool.
Yeah.
I did know that about that place. My mom lives down that road too.
Yes, she
so
does.
I hear the Oasis, and I know she comes down there sometimes too. So
Yes.
it's just this neat little cove. It's kind of at the end of the road, and
One way in, one way out.
That's right. That's exactly right. So I know we talked about your insurance business just a little bit, and your experience in sales and back in that with that financial institution really gave you that heart for getting into helping others, right, and serving. So I know you told me a little bit of story. Tell the brass rail story again that brings us back to you being in the insurance business.
Well, and another little plug for the brass rail. I
Yes.
love that part. Well, I had actually wasn't in the finance business due to the VP had passed away. The actual owner had passed away. They were fixing to merge us, and they come in with that, we're going to cut your commission, and we're going to change your district, and we're going to move your offices around. And I'm like, no, I have 8 years cleaning it up. I finally have just got my district how I want it, and I just don't want, and I had to open new offices again, and not that I'm not up for the challenge, but I knew it didn't feel right. It didn't feel right in my soul. The lady just basically couldn't look me in the eye, and I knew it wasn't a good relationship or a good fix. So I quit that job, and believe it or not, driving home that day, we did have mobiles in your car,
In the
or
car,
the bag phone.
The bag phone. Yes.
The big old high expensive analog
Yes,
type.
like a brick.
So I'm calling my husband, and I said, well, I just quit my job. He's like, what? And I was kind of telling him what she said. I said, but I didn't even cry. And believe it or not, this is the same year Ray Hubbard just opened. So I had gone through the 10 years of construction over that road and got stuck so many times.
Yes.
And now it's like I'm quitting this job and it's open. Because I did a lot of traveling up and down the road. So I just so happened to be, I think it was the following year, I took a little time off, and the agency manager, a new agency manager came into from an insurance company here in town, and I was selling some football pots, the jackpots and the 100 squares or whatever for the fun. That's what people love to do. And they were betting how fast I could get it done, and of course I did it
And
fast.
that was at the brass rail,
Brass
right?
rail, yeah. And so as soon as I sit down, I don't know, let's just say it took me 30 minutes. I don't know. But the manager there was like, are you ready to go back to work? And I said, well, what do you mean? He said, well, you be self-employed. I said, well, kind of tell me what that means. And he said, well, what if I make you an offer you can't refuse? I said, well, there's only been one other time someone said that to me. And I said, I guess I'll come talk to you. And then the rest was history. So, I worked for them for 20 years as a captive insurance agent.
That is incredible. That's a long time. 20 years is a long time. And how cool to get to open your own company now.
And I'm absolutely loving it. And I do like to work a lot, but I think I work, I serve, I volunteer, and I think a whole lot of that has to do with you have to pay it forward and you have to give back. And I don't mind working, but like the other day, we just got a new storage building and I sit there and I told my lady at work, I said, I have never took a day off for me to clean house or do something I needed to do for my home. I've never done that. It's always been for work. I can tell you, in the 35 or so years I had worked like that, if it wasn't a vacation day, I didn't take a day off. I didn't play hooky. I mean, that's just who I was.
Right.
So this thing is just total dedication.
Oh, completely.
Yeah.
Well, one of the reasons I wanted you to come on Heart of Greenville is because you give back so much financially, but also with your time. And so I want us to talk about what are some of the things that you love about Greenville?
Well, first I'm going to say something about this. You love to give back and you love to volunteer. And then you have that one moment and you're almost in tears and you know what your husband's answer is? Now, this is my rock and this is Wayne. Debbie, keep your hand down and your mouth shut. So, in other words, I'm doing this and I'm saying yes. So he's like, if you really don't want to do it, just learn to say no.
Yes.
And it's hard. And you're the same way that I am because you have to prioritize. And sometimes it's hard. But I think that I've been in the Lions Club since 1996. I've been in the Rotary, I believe, since 2000 and... Oh, gosh, I wished I'd looked that up.
I know.
I think 13 or 14 years.
I was going to say, you came out, I was in 2008, and I think I was the second female
Okay,
or
so
third.
it may have been
So you were
right there in that area, 9th or 10th.
Yeah.
Yeah. Gloria invited me, and it was just, here's your application.
Yeah.
And so, because they finally started accepting women in the Rotary Club.
Yes.
So
maybe I was number 4, but yeah. So very few. Just recently have we added more
so
women.
I think I served, I don't even remember what they made me at one time. And I served for that one, and I was like, I think I was becoming the president of the Lions at that time, and I'm like, I just don't need to be on the board. Let me figure out how to be a Rotarian too.
Yes.
Because it takes a lot of people to make our world go around. It takes a village to make our community go around. And you find those that volunteer, but you have to find other groups because there are so many. This is the most giving community I've ever been in my life. People rarely tell me no. I could be asking for donations. Thank you, Benny Keith. I could ask and call them up and ask them again, like Mel, I want to put a gift basket together for the Rotary, the Business After Hours. We were doing a fundraiser at Business After Hours last Thursday, and these people are giving me $50 certificates just to make our basket.
Yes.
Great. So it's a giving community, and so if you give, the one thing I do know is if you ask, the worst they say is no, but if you're a salesperson, you ask again. If they say no, you ask again. If they say no, you ask again, and eventually they're going to say yes, or somebody else will. You can eventually move on. You can eventually move on. You be comfortable with how many no's you're willing to take.
Well, then they just know, okay, Debbie's asking, just go ahead and say yes.
Oh, yeah, it's like, I just come up with tickets in my hand. They go, how much, Debbie? I go, give me 20. Oh, unless you want $100 worth today. No, 20's fine. Yeah, so we have a giving community.
You're so good about that, though. Like, I always love when we have our Chili Fest going and you're selling tickets and you're always getting everybody going. And
I don't know why I became this raffle salesman. I think, I'll tell you one thing, in college, and you come up with all ways. I was a Delta Zeta, and so you come up with all ways to raise money, and so we decided, I said, well, let's just sell these cheap Valentine cards, and you got the bigger sucker, the big heart, back then it might have been a nickel because you could have got penny suckers, right? And we would attach it to those cards, and we sold them for $1, and we delivered them.
Oh, yeah.
And so we made so much money doing that. So it was just one of those things, and a lot of people are embarrassed to ask. Oh, you just ask.
Just ask. I know. They can't take away your birthday.
Yeah.
If they say no, okay, you ask the next person.
Yeah, exactly. Move on.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. And that's just kind of what started it. If you give them the right tools, they can sell anything.
I love it. What is near and dear to your heart? What organization or or particular fundraiser or something that's maybe just super near and dear to you?
Well, as the Rotary president, the Noon Rotary,
Yes.
as the Rotary president this year, we have great fundraisers. We do the Cotton Patch Challenge bike ride, and this was the first year it really all stayed at the Rotary. Now, you guys, it's not at the Rotary. We give monies out to all the community and to a lot of nonprofits and international and district. We do a lot of things with the money, but this was our first year that we kept the money all to ourselves instead of splitting it with other nonprofits. Yes, like the Y for many, many years. And so we kept that, so we knew that we wouldn't probably have to do as many fundraisers and we could do more and do better things with our money. And Katie Ridge did a marvelous job taking on that humongous task. It was absolutely
a powerhouse.
She is. It was absolutely amazing. And so in my heart, whenever I became the president, I'm going, okay, we got good fundraisers going. We're taking care of our community, but we need to reach out and do something for the Greenville Rotary Post Office Foundation, Inc., which is the actual 501c nonprofit for the landmark on Lee Street.
Where we're at, this
we're
building
right here in it, right upstairs at the landing. And we know this building needs refurbished and cleaned up. And I think you didn't really realize that I became the president. I went to the meeting and they're like, we don't have any money. We haven't rented this place in 18 months. And I'm like, whoa. Oh, wow. You're not sitting here thinking, we were still coming.
Yeah.
But what's a little bitty $50, $75, $100 a week for our meeting is all we're renting. And there was only a few people doing that. And so they were losing their weddings and all these big venues, weekend venues and things like that. And I said, we have to do something. Wait, what can we do? I'm ready. I want to start a fundraiser immediately. But it takes so long to start throwing things together. We actually just sent out our letter. So this is my biggest project right now. We really have a goal. We'd really like to see us raise about $50,000 for them. We're probably going to end up having some basically happy hour hors d'oeuvre socials, and maybe do a few more of the gift baskets. We literally made $900, almost $900 off the 4 or 5 gift baskets that we had people buy chances for at Business After Hours. So, and we may have a gala, we may have a big dinner. We're just going to be trying to come up with all kinds of ideas of ways to really raise monies. We are looking for sponsors. The sponsors will get on all our invitations, all our advertising, anything in the newspaper. And so basically 1,000 or up, you can be a sponsor for us. And so you'll get the advertising when we do put stuff in the paper or send out invitations. And you'll have banners and other things. We also had Altam Builders. Thank you, Al and Tammy Schaefer, for sending their help. We bought the paint, but they did the front room so we could play around with some of the colors. Kind of playing around with some whites and silver or gray or real light grays or blacks or charcoals to try to see what would look nice and kind of bring the colors. We're all a little tired of the country slate blue. And if you haven't been in the ladies' bathroom, the mauve pink.
Yes.
So we're going to be getting rid of those. The lights are already here, thanks to Hardaway. Awesome. We have the LED lights here. We just need a few volunteer work days. But we're also waiting. Someone's going to loan us a lift or something, so we won't have to worry about the scaffolding and someone getting hurt, because those are really tall ceilings in the big room. And so that in itself is my pet project right now, and I'm just going to keep recruiting for that. And the Rotarians are great. There's service above self, and they take care of all the other stuff.
Oh, absolutely. And I'm so glad you're doing that. I mean, this is such an awesome building. It has so much history and just
it's a national landmark.
Yes, and it's our own downtown.
Yes.
It's an anchor here at the end of Lee Street, and so I'm so glad that our club is doing that and taking that on. So I know when Katie was having her 50th birthday, people could contribute. So I contributed to her for that, and so but just a little bit at a time, and everybody giving just a little. It adds up really quickly.
Yeah.
And just like having this up here at the landing, this is such a cool place for people to come and be able to work in the shared space environment.
I got to come up here when they were all remodeling the offices, but they weren't quite through. Steve and them had just, I think there might have had 1 or 2, but the rest of them weren't open. And this actual little conference and learning and training, this is awesome.
It's great. And it's it's right here. It's like this little hidden gem. And
Yeah.
so, that's all taking place right here. Right. So I'm happy to be a part of that. So I'm cheering you on as you lead the charge, Debbie.
Well, all right, thank you.
All right, well, I told you whenever we were wrapping up the show, I'd ask you your final question. So I just need you to pick a number between 1 and 20, and that's going to tell us what your final question is.
I'm going to pick number 9.
Number 9. If you could travel in time, where would you go and why?
If I could travel in time, backwards or forwards?
Either way. There's no rules in that question.
Oh, Wayno, you're going to get so upset. I'd have to go back in time, and I would have to say that I would have probably really fought Priscilla Presley for Elvis. No, all joking aside, but I do love the king of rock and roll.
I think Wayno's going to forgive you for that one. That's awesome. I had no idea what you were going to say, but that's
We
funny.
might still been married.
Yeah.
Me and my husband have been married 36 years.
Oh, that's awesome. Congratulations.
Thank you.
That's such an accomplishment.
Thank you. Thank you for having
3
me.
precious boys and a wonderful life. And
Oh, and 5 grandchildren.
Oh,
Can I
that's
give
right.
kudos out to them real
Please
quick?
do, yes.
Our grandson Jackson's the oldest, about to be 21. Can you
Wow.
believe it?
No.
He has now he's passed lineman school. He passed his CDL, so he's been working for Encore now for several months. Our beautiful girl Jade is at Arlington Baptist University. Last weekend they just won a tournament in Missouri, and she got MVP.
Saw that.
She's so athletic. I'm so proud of her. And then we have Sunny, who is all full-blown 10th grader, cheerleader, volleyball, everything.
gorgeous.
And fixing to get her driver's license. And then Shane has Sawyer, who is 5, and then little Tanner, who is a year and about 4 or 5 months. The time's flying by, isn't
yes,
it? Yeah.
it is. It
so
is.
we have 5.
That's so exciting. You have been so blessed with your life.
And Greenville's my home,
It is your home. It is.
no matter where you're born.
Exactly. It doesn't matter. Greenville runs through your soul. You can tell it. You love our community.
Well, thank you.
And our community loves you too.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for having me.
You're so welcome. I'll see you at Rotary.
Sounds good. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you for watching Heart of Greenville. This video series, which is designed to celebrate Greenville, Texas, is spearheaded by REMAX 3D Real Estate.